I've just recently finished rewatching the first 3 Alien films for the umpteenth time, and now I have the itch to play Alien Isolation again. Once I've finished playing through a bajillion other games that I ever want to play through again, or newer titles I haven't even bloody started yet. Not to mention the fact I just bought PlayStation VR. Okay, so I might have to wait for a while until I play through Isolation again. But I was sat down and suddenly remembered a little old game on the PlayStation 1. In fact, it was the second PlayStation game I ever played, the first being Tekken. It blew me away when I was a child, and that game was Alien Trilogy. Created by Probe Entertainment, who would also go on to release Die Hard Trilogy later in the same year, and published by Acclaim and Fox Interactive, Alien Trilogy places you in the role of Ellen Ripley as she traverses through all 3 movies. Well, actually no, that's not right at all. If anything, this is really a loose adaptation of Aliens. If you've never played this and only have experience with Die Hard Trilogy, then you might have expected 3 games with drastically different gameplay styles on one disc. Alien Trilogy is a first-person shooter, and that only. The only thing really linking this to any of the other films besides Aliens are the locations themselves, as you'll venture to not only Hadley's Hope, but Fury 161, which is now on LV-426 as well. And then the derelict spacecraft, or the bone ship as this game likes to call it. Oh, and Ripley's model was based off of Alien 3, which counts, I think? Before we go any further, I just want to quickly look at the cover art. I've always been really fond of this, and the cover has been stuck in my memory to this day. It's simplistic in design and isn't too busy. For me, this is a classic early years PlayStation 1 cover. It's just awesome. Anyway, like I said, it's a loose adaptation of Aliens. Don't believe me? Well, let's just watch the intro.
We don't want anyone to learn that the company has deliberately infected colonists in order to smuggle alien specimens past ICC quarantine.
Yes, sir.
It's imperative that you get Ripley to trust you. She's familiar with the xenomorph, and we may need her help to bring one out alive.
Understood.
All right, understand this. The Bioweapons Division had orders to eliminate anyone who attempts to interfere. Obviously, they won't be aware of your team's mission.
Run a bypass.
Good luck, Ripley.
Accessing computer system. Security codes. We're in. Stay frosty, people.
To be fair, for 1996, this pre-rendered cutscene isn't all that bad. I've seen far worse from games later in the PlayStation's life cycle as well. It sets up the game well enough, has a couple of name drops from Burke to Hudson running a bypass. Hell, we even get a recreation of Hicks's awesome rolling shot from Aliens. But the Marines are all wiped out, faster than the film as well, and this leaves Ellen Ripley, whom is a Marine in this continuity, to enter Hadley's Hope armed only with a pistol and stop the Xenomorph menace once and for all. Oh man, this main menu. When I booted this up for the first time in God knows how many years, the pure nostalgia struck me in the face like a wet brick. Oh, and just a quick side note, the game utilises a password feature, and fuck that because look at how long these are, whilst also having memory card support. Now, if you're like me, you'll be confused as we've been hardwired to expect the load feature to be on the main menu. Instead, you have to root around the options. So yeah. Not sure why I brought it up, as I'm certain 90% of you aren't as clueless as me. So, after some textual mission briefing, each level begins this way, we're dumped right into the game, straight into Hadley's Hope. And good lord does this take me back. I remember the first time I played this game, seeing the halls of the colony rendered in 3D. Blew my prepubescent bollocks off. Yeah, how's that for a mental image? And you know what? The graphics aren't actually that horrible. The environments are all rendered in 3D with simplistic textures that actually do the job. And as was the norm with early shooters like this, all of the enemies and player-held weapons are digitized sprites. Unfortunately, as you'd expect, the sprites look worse the closer you get to them, but it's hardly a deal breaker. I know this is such a weird thing to nitpick, but but, well, if you can even call it a nitpick. But the fact the motion tracker is green and not blue is really bothering me. Speaking of which, this is an invaluable item, as most likely, due to the hardware limitations of the time, your field of view is quite limited. However, like Silent Hill, this actually benefits the game in terms of atmosphere, as you'll often hear facehuggers and xenomorphs in the distance, with only the motion tracker giving you an idea as to the distance and direction of them. It keeps you on your toes and can make things incredibly intense, especially when entering rooms that have either emergency red light, which I popped for huge as a kid because
it's like the movie,
or zero light at all. You'll find your eyes darting from the environment to the motion tracker whilst trying to pinpoint enemies by sound alone. It's great stuff. Speaking of sound, the sound effects are all brilliant, from the weapons sounding impactful and faithful to the movie, even if the pulse rifle does get a bit irritating due to the constant bursts, to the slimy, scurrying sounds of facehuggers. The music itself really does the job as well. Some tracks pump you up for slaughtering enemies, whilst others have an eerie mystique about them that perfectly accompanies the mission. Missions themselves aren't particularly long or complicated. For the opening mission, we're tasked with securing the area by destroying crates. Shut up, just accept it. So that a new team of Marines can come in and set up shop, because the last team did such a cracking job. Usually you're tasked with destroying crates, facehugger eggs, collecting ID tags, wiping out xenomorphs, or powering up generators. Although there was one mission that saw me running around in circles, and I'd been into every room, found all the secrets, yet didn't have a battery for a final generator to open up the exit, which is always an elevator. This went on for, well, far longer than I'd like to admit, before I paused the game and looked at the map. You see, I noticed these little blue markings right by these lockers, so out of desperation I just launched a grenade at it and boom, the whole thing explodes and an item comes flying out. I do this for the others and lo and behold, there's the sodding battery. I wouldn't mind so much, but I don't remember the game telling me this was a possibility. The game does a really good job on not making levels feel too samey, which is essential considering the very basic mission objectives. It achieves this by changing the environment drastically. For example, the first two levels consist of running through the colony hallways we all know and love. It will then change to something similar to a more residential area / med bay, then a garage, and finally a xenomorph hive, complete with impregnated colonists begging for death, who are incredibly unsettling. Secondly, after 3 to 4-ish missions, you're greeted with a bonus stage. In these stages, you have 60 seconds to sprint around like a lunatic and collect as many power-ups, ammo, and weapon pickups as you can. Any old-school shooter veteran knows how vital this is. If you can get enough armor and extra health items, you'll feel like a god. That's all well and good, but what are we actually gonna be fighting? As you'd expect, you'll be battling with facehuggers and fully grown xenomorphs. You'll also be on the lookout for chestbursters, newborn and adult dog aliens, as well as human enemies sent by Weyland-Yutani themselves, be it human security officers that are infected, synthetics with smart guns, Weyland-Yutani Marines, and the private security that you see in Alien 3. This is a smart move as it manages to mix up the combat slightly as you're never quite sure what to expect. It certainly did a better job of it than Colonial Marines, which has changed the game into Call of Duty. A really bad Call of Duty. And then there's the big one. Of course, I'm talking about the Queen Alien herself. There are 3 queens in total and they're all battled at the end of each chapter. The easiest way to fight her is to go in, clear out all of the eggs and enemies, and then fight her one-on-one. Don't run in like John Bleeding Rambo and start launching grenades at her, because she'll just detach from her egg sack and start clawing your eyes out, whilst you're also trying to contend with other enemies. Now, what old school FPS would be complete without an armory of weapons? Well, Alien Trilogy is lucky in that sense that the franchise has some pretty awesome and iconic firearms, so let's just take a quick look at them. There's your standard 9mm that can never truly run out of ammunition, the awesome shotgun which is rather handy for close encounters, the flamethrower that's good for dispatching smaller enemies but eats through fuel, the always iconic pulse rifle that shoots in 3 short bursts but also has a grenade launcher attachment which can kill enemies in one hit and open hidden rooms, seismic survey charges which have a slow trajectory but are devastatingly powerful and can also uncover hidden rooms, and the legendary smart gun. This is easily the strongest firearm in the game. This allows you to hit enemies on the ceiling or on a platform below you. You'll feel all kinds of empowered once you finally get your hands on one of these. This is particularly handy when in levels set within a hive, as you'll have plenty of these bastards climbing on the ceiling. Although, saying that, they don't actually seem to damage you in any way, which is really odd. It can creep you out initially, but the people cocooned are far creepier. I mean, look at them. They just sort of hang there, and I don't know if You can put them out of their misery, though, by blowing their heads off. Jesus Christ. Ripley, have you got some scary face? Other items consist of auto mappers, which give you a full map layout of the level, shoulder lamps and night vision goggles that temporarily assist in illuminating otherwise pitch black locations, and batteries that are used to power generators and doors. So the game has roughly about 36 to 38 levels, which is a decent length for the time. Plus there are different difficulty levels, so you can ramp it all the way up to the maximum difficulty level if you fancy a crazy high challenge. Speaking of which, the challenge in the later levels can eat me. Two in particular are there just to punish and kill you repeatedly for not knowing the levels like the back of your hand. In this one, for example, there are pools of acid, for reasons, that do about 10 damage per 2 seconds. Problem is you have to go in there in order to access secret hidden rooms to kill xenomorphs, because if you don't kill 60% of them, then you can't proceed past this level. Then this one has you fighting multiple tough warriors that just so happen to be waiting in pits that you will fall into. Why will you fall into them? Oh, only because the floor is actually a hologram or some crazy shit. So, after the irritation of the few levels that preceded it, we're ready to take down the final queen and escape the derelict spaceship. Sorry, the bone ship. Why is the sky on fire? No, really, all we did was kill an alien queen. Why is the sky on fire? There's probably nothing to worry about, as Bishop shortly arrives. And we escape the planet of LV-426, which proceeds to explode. Why does it explode? There's nothing to foreshadow this. In fact, I'm certain that most of the mission briefs mention securing areas, so why does it go boom?
The dropship has been destroyed, taking the atmospheric processor's cooling system with it. The planet is going to blow.
But it's only knocked out the reactor. Why is the planet going to explode?
The planet is going to blow.
But why does it explode? Can anyone explain? Bishop, Ripley, oh, whatever. Nothing matters since we quickly discover that an escape pod escaped the planet, and on board are facehuggers and full-grown drones. Oh dear. Happy ending? So, does Alien Trilogy still hold up? If you couldn't tell already, the answer is, well, a resounding yes. I had a ton of fun revisiting this. In fact, when recording footage for this, I would find myself stuck in an endless loop of wanting to play just one more level. And if the game ensnared me like that, then it must be doing something well. Once I adapted to the old school first-person shooter controls, I didn't have any issues. The only time I ever missed a second analog stick or the ability to look up was whenever I was in a hive, and I had to shoot those gits on the ceiling. But there are some issues. The final few levels within the derelict ship are particularly frustrating, with cheap invisible trap floors, and the game throwing too many strong xenomorphs and synthetics at you all at once. If you don't luckily find a max health and armor boost, which is in an alcove off to the side of a sliding floor, then you have zero chance of progressing. But despite that, the game is still a ton of fun, even if the ending is absolutely, well, insane. Why does the planet explode? So personally, I'd recommend it to anyone with either an old school first person shooter itch or an Alien fan. But what do you think? Do you like the game? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment sections below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to hear more of my sexy, sexy voice. Catch you later. Okay, no, really. Why does the planet fucking explode?